Welcome, everyone. This is Imagine All the People podcast, where we learn to appreciate our experiences and cherish the bond we all share as human beings. I'm your host, Daniel, and today I had the opportunity to talk to Paolo, who's currently traveling across the world on his motorcycle.
My name is Paolo Cattaneo. I was born in Italy in 1980 in a small town in the north part of Italy, near a lake called Como. I'm 39 and I now live in Australia. I'm a computer science engineer by trade, but I also do other things such as motorcycle traveling. As This is what I've been doing for the past 4 years, traveling on my motorcycle.
Mm-hmm. And where have you traveled through on your motorcycle?
So since I was living in Australia, initially I just circumnavigated Australia for roughly 8 months. And then I shipped my motorcycle to South America and rode around South America for a year and a half. Then I flew with my motorcycle to Central America and rode Central America and circumnavigated North America, so United States, Canada. Then I shipped my motorcycle to Europe, to Dublin, and then rode pretty much around the west part of Europe. And I'm in Italy.
Mm-hmm. And what was your initial inspiration for riding your motorcycle for such long distances?
Well, other people that actually have done it. So I'm clearly not the first one that has accomplished something like this. At the beginning, I was focused more on just Australia. So just by word of friends, I met a few other riders that accomplished that before me. So I started to talk to them and asking questions. I had all doubts about it, and I was a bit scared. But then when I started my adventure, it kind of came naturally to me how to, survive and travel in that way. So.
Mm-hmm. And how did your family and friends back at home respond to your decision?
Well, initially, my family has been always very supportive of my decision. I mean, I moved from Italy to United States at some point, and then I moved to Australia, and then I moved to Thailand. So I've been traveling since I was like 24, 25, just right after university. And when I moved to Australia, I settled in pretty well. So I had like a very stable job, at a pretty decent life, and I was kind of doing okay in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I decided to drop everything and to go for a motorcycle adventure solo, yeah, my mom wasn't really too enthusiastic about it. Really.
Okay. And
Yeah.
were you ever worried that you were not able to fund your trip?
Well, because my idea initially was just to travel around Australia, I didn't really plan much because I had enough savings just to sustain myself. Plus, I could always come back home. Like Australia, just like it's really big, but it's also like one nation. It's like the United States, so you can always travel back, in case of like
Mm-hmm.
an emergency or in case you run out of money. And then when I decided to go for a world tour, that at that stage I understood that actually living on the road the way I managed to live was actually cheaper than living in a city, for instance. So I made a rough calculation that I could probably tag along for another year and a half.
Okay. And do you have any plans to go back to your old working conditions?
Look, I never really disliked my working condition and the job that I had before. It wasn't definitely as exciting as riding a motorcycle around the world, but uh, it was a decent job, and I really loved my colleagues and the work environment that I was in. So I wouldn't mind to go back to a similar situation for sure.
Okay. And where are you on your journey now?
I'm halfway.
Mhm.
So like halfway in terms of like if you look at the world. So I left Australia and I crossed half the world and I arrived in Italy, and now I'm halfway because I'm going back to Australia from
Mhm.
here. So I'm gonna cross Asia and Southeast Asia and eventually go back to Australia.
And how does it all work out your whole trip? Like, where do you sleep? Where do you eat?
Well, traveling by yourself, first of all, is the best way to make friends. Like you are constantly exposed to potential conversation with anybody, from the guy at the gas station to the people that you meet at the hostel, or
Mhm.
just the bystanders. They're like curious about your bike, and they approach you, and that when you're a solo traveler, you're the odd one, like
Yeah.
because you always suscitate a bit of more interest than other people traveling, in groups, for instance. Because yeah, apparently, by general understanding, it requires a bit more bravery to do such a thing. So I think people are slightly more fascinated by an individual that is able to do something like this. So it's very easy to make friends. There's a lot of people traveling as well by themselves, so you meet other solo travelers or other travelers like couples or friends traveling. You meet locals, they want to help you usually, so that is very easy to make friends. And in terms of like sleeping, uh, like how to arrange that, usually it comes like a consequence in this sense. Like if you make new friends, they might help you to find an
Mhm.
accommodation, or I usually sleep in hostels, or I do couch surfing, or I camp. I carry my own tent, so I sleep in my tent if the weather conditions allow it. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Mhm. But considering the language barrier, how would you communicate with other people at different countries?
Well, so far I've been traveling only in English-speaking countries, and Spanish and Portuguese-speaking countries.
Mhm.
So I speak Spanish, and I kind of learned Portuguese because being Italian, being Italian my first language, it was kind of easy to absorb this kind of new uh, languages. But definitely when I travel through Europe and entering countries like Belgium, uh, or what else? Or French. I don't really speak French, but I do understand bits of it. And
Mhm.
like the Netherlands and Belgium, it was quite, or Germany. Uh, I wasn't quite able to communicate, but they do speak English, so most of the people anyway. So it was okay in
Mhm.
that sense. But in my next leg, it will be slightly harder because I'm going through Asia, which is renowned not to be very. Uh, they're not really proficient in the English language, so I might have to adapt and use a sign language.
Mhm. Okay, so you're planning on using sign language to communicate your ideas to other people in
Yeah,
Asia?
I mean, people have traveled through like history without speaking a word with other people. Like
Mhm.
there's always a way to communicate whatever is your whatever you're trying to communicate. Of course, you can't be really specific, but I think there's also um, there's a common language. Like it's in the eyes, in the face, in the smile.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can communicate through those. Like using like facial expressions, for instance, or like hand gestures or
Mhm.
things like that. And if you want to be more specific, nowadays you can use an app, right? So
Mhm.
you can use a translating app, and there's a augmented reality, so you can translate things that you take a picture of, and
Yeah.
it's quite easy nowadays to travel. It's not like as complicated as it sounds.
Okay. And you talked about being alone so often through your journey. So it must be really hard being a stranger so often in different regions. Do you ever find it hard to maintain long-term relationships with the people you meet?
Again, technology comes in handy in this sense because through social media or everybody kind of has like an email address or a Facebook account or an Instagram account, and those uh, means of communication are pretty much international. So you just have to have internet connection or a data connection with your
Mm-hmm.
provider, and you can communicate with everybody. And I'm still in touch with a lot of people I've been I met along my way. So yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And throughout the different regions that you have traveled through, which region would you say had the most beautiful landscape?
Oh, tough one. Um, I really love Patagonia. Patagonia is a region in the south in South America, uh, in between Chile and Argentina, in the very south. And it's a region where the Andes meet the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are mountains that goes right behind, like there are 6,000 meters, so 18,000 feet mountains. Uh, they they just pretty much end in the ocean. So it's a beautiful, beautiful region in the world, in my opinion. And even for riding, it was a outstanding experience in this sense. But there's many others like Bolivia or Canada. It was fantastic in my opinion. Yeah, there's plenty of it.
Mm-hmm. And you're traveling on a motorcycle, so you don't really have that much you can carry or put on. So how would you carry all your clothes and other necessities along with you?
Well, the exact word is necessity. So what do you really need? Like to have a selection of clothes of the same item is not a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
What you actually need is the item. Like you need a t-shirt, like two, three, four, or you need one pair of jeans, or you don't need like five or six. So in that sense, you just minimize the content on your bag, just putting one item or two, or depending on what kind of things you need. Like if you're a person that obviously suffers the cold temperatures a lot, you need to carry a bit more. But if you're okay, you just have your motorcycle jacket and some outer layer, like a rainproof outer layer, and then the rest is just basically like a sweatshirt and few t-shirts and a few socks, and you know there's not much you can carry, so you have to make a very it's like packing. It's like if you're trying to pack for to go for like 3 days out somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really need to carry that much.
Yeah. And how do you account for all the various weather conditions along the different regions?
Mm. Well, well, when it's really cold, you need to probably be prepared, like with especially sleeping gear.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're gonna be cold in your tent, so you need to have a proper sleeping bag and a sleeping mattress. So yeah, the two crucial parts are the air mattress, and it has to be insulated for cold temperature, and the sleeping bag. But yeah, that's for cold environments. But for warmer environments, you don't really need to prepare too much.
Mm-hmm. And throughout your journey, what aspects of human good have you seen?
Ooh, there's been a lot of people helping for sure. I've been given like food from stranger, just people that I met really at the gas station, really, and they just wanted to help me for like give me a coffee or a meal, uh, or they helped me with my motorcycle. They helped me find shelter. So that kind of help uh, is just like a genuine uh, kindness from strangers. That was remarkable. Even though like it wasn't really about the being in a situation that you were privileged. For instance, like I'm traveling on a motorcycle, right? So if I'm traveling through like a country that is a third world country, right? So
Hmm.
definitely I have more resources than a lot of people that I travel, and I mean a lot of people that live in that country. So uh, that theoretically they wouldn't need me, they wouldn't need to help me, right? So I wouldn't
Yeah.
need any help from them. So but instead, like, they wanted to show like their hospitality to me. Like, they wanted to help. They wanted to greet me in their country and show me around and uh, show me their ways of doing things. And I think the best way to to understand a culture and how people live is to show appreciation for
Hmm.
what they can give you, and regardless of the situation, the social economical situation. It's just it was amazing to see the kindness of some people. Like, I was blown away for sure.
Hmm. And more specifically, is there one experience that particularly stuck out to you?
Mm, let me think. Oh, yeah, one guy in Colombia gave me like $5 because I was sleeping on the side of the road in a truck stop. Just something that probably not even a Colombian will do. But I that's the way I travel. So I just eat very little and I sleep wherever. And this guy was moved by the fact that I was sleeping on the side of the road, and he gave me just $5. He said, "No, no, take it." I just say, I don't need $5. Thank you very much." And he just really insisted, and he offered me a beer as well. So it was such a weird situation I've never been in. Like, somebody actually gave me spare change. I mean, for them, $5 is a lot of money too.
Hmm.
Like, that was the incredible part of it.
Yeah. And do these experiences come often?
No, that was a very particular instance, but definitely people showing the will to help me. Yeah, that's very common. Yes.
Hmm. And sleeping at a truck stop seems really dangerous. So, what other dangerous experiences have you encountered throughout your journey?
Yeah, well, some countries are more dangerous than others. So, like, for okay, for a first world country white boy, some situations are very dangerous, right?
Hmm.
So, but if you get used to some sort of countries, they're not that dangerous, in my opinion. They just look odd. For
Hmm.
instance, like sleeping in a truck stop in Colombia. It's not really something that uh, you should do. But in my experience, I've traveled enough to I'm trying. I'm able to see if a situation can be dangerous or not. And in that case, to me, it was a safe place to sleep. I spoke to the owner of the truck stop, and I asked him if it was okay. I was going to sleep there, and he seems like a fairly genuine person. And I kind of hid my motorcycle in a way, so I pitched my tent in a dark area, so even if somebody would come, they wouldn't see me. So I try
Hmm.
always to hide. Just little things that I learned just traveling, like especially camping on the side of the road. So aside from this, there were some places that were more dangerous than others, and then I encountered, like, in Bolivia, I pretty much rode through a riot, and there was police everywhere. People were shooting with guns, and I kind of sneaked my way through the riot, and but I didn't. It was kind of like, where everybody's looking at you and you try not to look at anybody.
Hmm.
You try just going your own way and trying to be out of there as quick as possible, because if you do something wrong, it will might ignite a reaction. In that case, it will potentially become a dangerous situation. So I snuck out of there, luckily. There were a few other occasions in Brazil Brazil is quite unique in that sense because there's all the favelas, and it's not the best place to ride your motorcycle through.
Hmm.
Nothing happened, but I've been warned so much by the locals that eventually I got scared of riding into Brazil because they were just mind blown by the fact that I was traveling by myself in a country and in some areas that I've been through, because they're not that safe. Sometimes they uh, it's known for like people jumping out of the side of the road and attacking uh, any driver and robbing them, or at gunpoint. So
Hmm.
that wasn't the best. El Salvador had some issues when I rode through. Um, but nothing happened, luckily. And I was in Nicaragua through 2 days after the revolution. Like there was an internal civil revolution that happened a couple of years ago. I think it was not a year ago.
Okay,
So,
and can you tell me a little bit more about your experiences in Nicaragua?
well, Nicaragua was oddly. It was very odd in the sense that people were really afraid of police, like even locals. Usually, like in Latin America, police are not really. People care about police, but usually it's so corrupt they're not really afraid of police. In
Mhm.
Nicaragua, it was the only place that I saw people that actually locals being scared of police. So I don't know what the police does there precisely, but yeah, that wasn't reassuring for sure.
Mhm.
Honduras wasn't. Uh, the people weren't talking about Honduras very well, but I didn't really. People were really helpful with me, so I couldn't tell. But those Central American countries are a bit weird.
It's always your opinion, but what country that you have traveled through had the best food?
Mm. Best food. I really loved Ecuador. Ecuador and Peru. Yes, I will probably say Ecuador.
Mhm. And is there a specific reason why?
Yeah, because their food is delicious. It's they have seafood, they have meat-based food plates. They have like criollo culture too, so like the indigenous cuisine mixed with the Spanish colonizer cuisine, and they're big in their fruits as well. They have like bananas, cacao. It's all tropical fruits are accessible as well because they have the Amazon there too. It's such a rich country in a way, and it's so weird that people don't know about it. But it's a great um, country for their cuisine. I had the best lobster too for $3. So for me, it was a it was a happy day.
And traveling through all these different areas, and interacting with all these different cultures and different people, but overall we're all human beings. So what would you say is the greatest similarity between every single human?
Men have they always have one kind of common denominator, which is the fear of the unknown. So if when somebody doesn't know something, is afraid of it, right?
Hmm.
Or if something doesn't, if he doesn't understand it, it they're afraid of it. So that's a common thing in human beings, right? And it doesn't matter in what kind of subject you want to apply it to. It's always true. Like we're always afraid of what we don't know. And the other thing is that people want to be happy and respected. I think it's a fair thing to say. And you can't really be more specific in this way because there's so many different variation and so many different variables too. But yeah, I would say these two things, and the other maybe is the um, whatever issue you have is your parents' fault. So yeah, it's a common thing that I've seen in everybody that I met along my way. You know, like some people behave a certain ways or things like that, and you when you hear people's stories, it's actually unbelievable that what they've been through. You know, it's
Hmm.
everybody has his own story. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if you haven't traveled the world with a push bike or with a unicycle or cross the ocean swimming or you just been in your little hometown your whole life. You always have a story, and some people have a really tough story,
Hmm.
and that's incredible, and it's worth listening to it.
But having traveled through different regions of the earth, what is one new perspective that you have gained from your journey that you wouldn't have had otherwise?
Well, I think the best way um, to know yourself is to be by yourself for a little bit. And I think if I haven't traveled by myself, I wouldn't have found out about certain things about myself or my about who I am and who I really am. You know, it's not really just a fact of a reflection of the society that I am in or my social background or my economical status. Like I'm talking about like who you really are,
Hmm.
as a human being on this planet. So it's being by yourself for a long time and having time to think about certain things, which nowadays is kind of a privilege if you think about it. Yeah, that's the best outcome that I probably received through this trip.
And why would you say that's a privilege?
Well, because we most of us we're born in a structure already. The structure has been put there by your family and by society. So you never really in that sense you're never really free to pick your own direction until a certain age. So and sometimes you pick a direction because that's where you're supposed to do. Like I think I chose to study computer science engineering because I think my mom told me to do it. So I mean,
Hmm.
I like computers, but to take such a choice, an important choice in my life, I don't know. I don't think I was fully responsible of this choice, and that's just one choice, and all the choices that came before it was just because of my social economical background and my family. So it's these are things that have been given to you. You start from there, right? So you never really have the chance to abstract yourself from this situation and this environment and being just like a human being on this planet and decide your own direction. So in that sense, is a privilege because not many people have a chance. You have commitments, you have responsibilities, you own things, you own money. You have to do this, you have to do that. You got friends, you got your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever you have. These are things that you're constantly stimulated and distracted by these things. So it's hard to think about the direction you want to go and the person you want to be when you have all these things to take care of.
Hmm. And so, would you say that this is a major reason why you decided to go on a motorcycle journey?
I think it was one of the reasons, yes.
Okay. And we often talk about nationalism in a light that is almost like ignorance to other cultures. And would you say that traveling is the best way to cure nationalism?
uh, I don't know, but it helps because I met a lot of travelers that, yeah, I couldn't believe they were travelers because they were judging their way through the country they were going through, right? So I wouldn't I wouldn't say such a thing, but definitely traveling and seeing different things and uh, make your own opinion about certain matters instead of just getting it from the TV or whatever mass media machine you're feeding your brain with. I think is a better solution. So it's better to go out there and see yourself with your own eyes and make your own idea. But some people are very they go and they try to understand, but it's maybe they're not really fully understanding. So they just accept what they see and they process very superficially, and it's hard sometimes to accept certain realities or to understand it. So it's kind of it becomes a part of the structure of your head. So I don't know if it helps to cure nationalism, but it might help for sure.
Mm-hmm. And overall, through your journey, what is one specific takeaway that you have learned?
Don't eat raw prawns.
Is there a reason why?
Yeah, well, no, I'm just kidding. I just got sick once. Silly me. But no, I think probably it will be yeah that people are more alike that we think we are different. Yeah, that I think what you can probably say about after whatever I've seen for such a long time and traveling through different countries is that people are more alike than we think we're different.
Could you elaborate a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I, I believe that we are all very similar. We want to be loved. We have fears. We have problems, everyday problems. We have families. We have parents. We want to succeed. We want to be happy. And, it doesn't matter how you look like. It doesn't matter where you come from, how much money you have. At the end of the day, we all want this. And sometimes it's hard to see, but I think that's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Paolo, that just about wraps up our episode for today, but I really wanted to thank you so much for sharing with me your experiences today.
Um, Absolute pleasure, and thanks for reaching out. It was definitely a pleasure to be interviewed by you.
Thank you for listening to Imagine All the People podcast. This was Paolo, and we hope you join us for the next episode.